Let me put it this way. If I ever commit a crime and have to be judged by a jury of my peers, I would not want to have a juror that judged the divers or the gymnasts at the Olympics, because my God, I have no freaking clue what goes through their minds. It'd be like flipping a coin. I think I'm gonna get drunk with one beer, or I'll die, like the dysfunctional adult I am. Sounds like a boat. I think I'm a little tipsy. The Olympics. That beautiful event where the elite athletes from all around the world gather to compete and search for the best of the best, like creme de la creme of sports, so to speak, while winning medals, breaking records, knocking boots like rabbits, and doing things we think only gods can do. Talk about feeling insufficient from the comfort of your sofa, huh? Nevertheless, there are some things I believe us mortals can learn, even if we are couch potatoes, and thanks to the power of doing whatever the heck you want, I wrote down 3 things that I learned from watching the Olympics the last couple of weeks, and how some of these things relate to me as a musician. Yeah, I know the Olympics are over, but the Paralympics are on right now, and Mexican athletes are killing it. Besides, I'm clearly making this video because I don't have a lot to do, and I've been avoiding my responsibilities like the dysfunctional adult I am, so grab a seat, get some popcorn, make yourself comfortable. Now, before you say musicians and athletes have nothing in common, let me tell you that we are actually 2 sides of the same coin. Although I guess musicians have a bit of an advantage because we are both musicians and athletes, but athletes are just that. Not that being a professional athlete is any less merit. I mean, only the best get to go to the Olympics after all, and the way they look. I mean, that is some prime physique. And I don't mean to speak about musicians, but have you seen us? We're not the most athletic bunch. I mean, we're okay, a little fuzzy around the edges, and if you can ignore the huge ego and low self-esteem, we're a catch. Did I mention that a lot of musicians are alcohol? Never mind, I think I'm a little tipsy. So, number 1 on my list is, even though the Olympics is this huge competition and everyone is trying to do their best to win a gold medal, the best moments, in my opinion, are when we see athletes acknowledging that competing isn't everything and watching them celebrate the achievements of others. Like this moment, when 2 guys tied for gold and decided to share a podium instead of keep on competing.
Can we have 2 gold? If you decide on Olympic champions.
I gotta say, moments like this make me want to cry happy tears, and I wish this kind of attitude was seen more often in other places, especially between artists. In case you somehow don't know about this, the world of music is pretty toxic, pun very much intended. And if you haven't experienced it yourself, chances are you know someone who has. Personally, I think that I've had mostly good experiences with other musicians, but I've heard stories from other people, you know, friends and classmates of mine, that have had really bad experiences with people telling them that they're not good enough and that they should not be doing what they're doing in the first place, as if somehow their opinion on other people's businesses was relevant. It's not. Although, come to think of it, I once had a piano teacher who told me I wasn't good enough to even apply to music school, and it turns out I got into said school on my first attempt. I haven't been able to finish and get out of there yet, but the day will come, or I'll die. Whatever happens first, I'm good either way. Anyhow, I know that competing to see who's the best is kind of the point of the Olympics, but it's not the only one, and it's nice to be reminded by some of the most unbelievable humans that being the best you has many different shapes. And that's something that I definitely love to see in the music world, because most of the time the comments I hear are so focused on who's better than who and who can play more or faster, as if that matters, and an endless list of reasons why you'll never make it as a musician. And while it can be pretty funny to joke about the hardships of life as a musician, I believe that this kind of behaviour can discourage a ton of people from doing something they love. I've lost count of the number of conversations I've had with friends and random people who told me that at some point in their lives they wanted to become musicians or painters or writers, but they didn't. And instead of trying to become something that could have made them happy, they chose a different option, a safer and perhaps more socially acceptable option. And that's the thing, isn't it? I imagine that those athletes get that because they absolutely love what they do. I'm not saying it's easy or that loving something will take you to the equivalent of the Olympics/Paralympics and whatever you do. But if you don't enjoy it, if you struggle with it and it causes you more frustration and hardship that you can handle, knowing that others battle with the same things may be helpful in finding better ways to cope with it, right? And every edition at the Olympics reminds me of some of the best of us humans, all of the passion, dedication, and sacrifices these athletes had to make in spite of the difficulties, the setbacks, the lack of support, the ones who try to bring them down every step of the way. Can you see now how alike musicians and athletes are? Not necessarily on the outside, don't be so literal, please. Something else I learned came from the one and only, the GOAT of gymnastics herself. I don't even know why they call her a GOAT, but okay. Simone Biles. And that is that we don't owe anything to anyone but ourselves. Sports and arts are pretty much a spectacle, a form of entertainment that allows us to make a living by showcasing what we can do. Or it should, in theory. So whether it's to do flips in the air like Gravity Smith or play a musical instrument like a boss, we essentially live constantly proving our worth to others and relying on their support to pay rent, buy food and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a job, a profession like any other. And since we don't go to the doctor and say, if you can treat me and I'm satisfied with the results, you'll be rewarded for your job, we shouldn't do that with musicians or athletes either. Gosh, I did just spell that one, didn't I? When Simone decided to step back from the all-around competition due to a very real, legitimate reason regarding her mental health and people were super harsh with her because of it, the stand she took, the courage she displayed when she decided to remain in the spotlight and cheer for her teammates and eventually decide to compete again while the eyes of the world were laid upon her was one of the bravest things I think anyone could do. An elite athlete acknowledging the importance of mental health at the biggest sports event is not something insignificant. The display of one's humanity is not something we often see at that level, where pretty much everyone resembles a god or goddess. When the stakes are that high, you either flourish and reach Mount Olympus, or you crash and burn. Well, that's how it seems at least, but there are so many more shades to it, probably more than 50. And yet that's pretty much the mentality I've seen amongst musicians. You're either somebody, or you're nobody, except that's not true. I know it's quite easy to judge from the distance. I mean, they do make it look kind of simple, like you could just get up and give it a go, but surely if we did that we would break our necks, so we don't. We just sit and watch and judge. Actually, that's something I learned at music school. The last thing on my list, and this one took me for a loop, I recently learned that around 60% of Olympic athletes are not financially stable, which is a slightly more elegant way to say that they're broke. And if there's one thing musicians have been consistent about throughout history, is that very few get to be financially stable. The vast majority of us are either broke or making a living from something that's not related to our chosen profession. And when I read about this, I was a bit shocked, but not entirely surprised. Olympians have a reputation in my mind, and their demigod status might have given me the impression that they have a good life and they want for nothing other than the glory of becoming an Olympic champion, but much like musicians, they're passionate about something that's deemed as not very useful to society. Sounds like a boat. Athletes and musicians both spend years practicing and striving to be the best they can and then competing to prove it. We're mostly acclaimed when we manage to wow the public, and that can give the impression that all that matters is pleasing the public instead of enjoying what you do. And then I remembered a quote about musicians having the courage to follow their dreams instead of following a safer, more socially acceptable path like becoming a dentist or a lawyer. And I used to feel proud about it, as if we were warriors and somehow better than those who complied with the unspoken rules of society. But romanticizing the precariousness of our existence is a dead end that only serves to keep us shrouded in mystery until we manage to stand out from the crowd. If we manage. And I wish someone had told me earlier that I don't need to be the best pianist or the best at anything, period, to feel validated. So in case you need to hear it, the fact is that whatever you do, however you do it, it only has to be enough for you. I think I might need to repeat that to myself every day. I've also been thinking that I should probably go back to therapy, but making these videos is a lot easier and less cringy, I guess. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. I suppose you'll see me when you'll see me, because I'm still not very good at uploading consistently, so take care of yourselves and until next time, bye. I am really out of practice because I'm not even finished with my first beer and I'm feeling good. Wow. I drew these things in my eyes, right? And it took me like 45 minutes, so I'm never gonna do that again, probably. This was a gift from a friend, and I think I'm a little tipsy.